That how I came to become involved with the franchising industry. When I was in law school, I had a contracts professor who lectured us about how we would all overlook certain niche areas of the law. And the area he mentioned specifically was franchising. And he mentioned that, and I proceeded to ignore that advice and go to work for a very large firm in Chicago. 4 or 5 years later, I crossed paths with the founders of Cheng, Cohen. I was very interested in working with them just because I really enjoyed them as people, and discovered that they practiced in the franchising space. And I thought it was serendipitous that franchising that I'd been kind of advised about way back in law school, I was crossing paths with that again. So I took the plunge and decided to come to work for Cheng Cohen, and have been here ever since and love it. Yeah, from a litigation standpoint, I like the variety. No two cases that I have are ever the same, and even if the cases are similar, the industry in which the dispute is happening often changes. So it gives me a great opportunity to learn a lot about a lot of different businesses, and I think that variety is really important to not just having a successful career, but having a happy one. What I like about or what I love about the franchising model is less the people that I get to work with, since I'm working, typically with disputes, but the other side of our office, the commercial attorneys, the transactional attorneys, they work with clients on really growing their business, managing their businesses. And whether I'm at one of those clients' annual meetings or, we'll host events at trade shows and conferences, I really enjoy seeing when the franchising model works, which it often does, and getting to listen to stories about franchisors and franchisees and their shared success. What makes someone a good fit for the franchise industry, and really this applies whether you're on the supplier side, the franchisor side, the franchisee side. I think first and foremost, you have to be resilient. I would have said that 18 months ago, but certainly now under these circumstances, that's more important than ever. Franchising is a microcosm of life in that nothing's going to go the way you plan for it to go every time. The people that are able to not just overcome obstacles, but embrace them and learn from them do really well. I think it's also important that people who work in franchising are smart and efficient about how they spend their time. You hear a lot about people needing to work hard, and that's true, but it also really matters where people are applying their energy, making sure that they're spending the most times on the things that add the most value. The third trait that I think is really important for people who want to get into franchising is you have to be humble. No one does this on their own. No franchisor succeeds without the success and the hard work of its franchisees, of the franchisor's staff and operational support. And on the flip side of that, no franchisee builds a successful business without the help of the franchisees, employees, without the help of the franchisor, the franchise offering, the franchisor's operations folks. And I think for both franchisee owners and for executives at franchisors, I haven't seen anyone succeed without the support of a significant other or spouse or some other family member. It's a very time-consuming industry, and the support of loved ones is truly important. So I think humility is an aspect that's really important in franchising as well. Well, I want to be precise here. The model applies across industries. I certainly think that the pandemic has impacted some industries more than others. And I'm also cautious to point out any success stories simply because the pandemic's been so awful, cost so many lives and cost so many businesses. But I do see from the clients that I represent a lot of franchise systems bouncing back. And I think that the pandemic brought out the best in the franchising model. You had the franchisor focusing on macro issues. How are we going to shift our offering? How are we going to protect our franchisees? How can we learn more about government programs like PPP loans and educate our franchisees about that, about the new offerings, such that we can all weather this together? And similarly, you have franchisees, I think, really do some belt tightening on their end and figure out how they were going to weather their storm from an individual location standpoint. And so I think that while the pandemic isn't over, there's cautious optimism, and in the franchising industry specifically, that's because of the kind of harmonious work between franchisors and franchisees to survive this thing. What advice I have to people who are young up and coming, and looking to get into franchising, other than franchise specific advice, more broadly than that, my advice to young people is to stay curious, but more importantly, be intentional about that curiosity. If you rely on algorithms to provide you all your entertainment, to provide you all your news, and provide you all your podcasts, then you're going to read, you're going to listen to, and you're going to watch the same things that everybody else does. And as a result, you're going to think the same things that everybody else does. There's so much information available free to the public right now that I think the real challenge for younger people looking to get into any industry is to cultivate good sources of information and really stay current on those. Because if you invest in different interests now, then that investment in those interests will compound in 20 years from now. You'll be a person who's knowledgeable in a wide array of areas, which is something I think all young people should aspire to.